Mercury enters Aries March 3rd, 2025, telling it like it is. Bold statements, confrontational and argumentative. Hello, my name is Eliane Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what it means that the planetary messenger who rules our communications has entered Aries, where he will be over an extended period of time because of the retrograde season that will be beginning March 14th. But before I get into the translation and all the dates and the back and forth with Pisces, I want to say, if you're watching this on Instagram, I'm just posting the first 3 minutes here. The entire video will be available on my YouTube channel, Eliane Nicole. My YouTube channel is my name, Eliane Nicole. Please find me there. And I will put a link in the profile bio of my Instagram to get there. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Please hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Please like, please comment, please share. It helps me in the algorithm and to grow my business and grow my channel and my community, and it puts me in a position to continue to give these free astrological offerings. If you're watching this on Instagram, please make sure that you are following astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole. And if you would like to book a reading with me, that is also available via a link in the profile bio at astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole. And now, without further ado, I'm going to talk about Mercury entering Aries March 3rd, where he will be, kind of going back and forth through April. So, this is a storyline in our life that really extends into the spring. And we are already in the pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde as Mercury enters Aries. So in terms of communications, our conversations, our contracts, our negotiations, our emails, our texts, just everything that we're talking about, reading, writing, all of these things will be coming back up again for us April 15th through April 26th. So basically, again, those dates are March 3rd through March 14th. So I'm shrinking this down to a smaller portion of time because I'm going to break these videos into sections. And for now, this is a section I'm focused on. Mercury kind of entering Aries and going up to the point where he stations retrograde. And it's important that I'm distinguishing this piece of real estate because I'm going to talk about in this video what it might mean in our personal lives, what it might mean on a collective level. And then I'm going to take a look at America's chart, and I'm going to look at Los Angeles's chart. Because I don't know, I've been doing that lately and I think it's kind of interesting, and I'm just trying out new things on my channel. And let me know in comments what you think, what you like in terms of programming. Anyway, so Mercury into Aries is Mercury entering a Mars-ruled sign. Mars, as we know, is the god of war. So Mercury in Aries can be very argumentative. Mercury in Aries has a communication style in general of being very blunt and very straightforward. And so during this time that Mercury is traveling through Aries, that is very likely to be kind of like the collective energy of communication. And when I say the collective, I mean this is like when you're out in the streets, in traffic, you know, at the market, at the bank, you know, all of the places where we have to be with the public, you know, at school, at work. This is a general vibe, you know, and people can be very, you know, irritable when Mercury is in Aries, and especially because this year, while Mercury is in Aries, his ruler, Mars, happens to be in Cancer, where Mars is debilitated and Mars can be depressed, can be emotionally embattled. And so there is like an edginess in the communications. People can have a slight edge on their tone. People can be, quick to argue. There can be a lot of little bickering going on, a lot of little irritations and irksomeness happening in people's kinds of mood and the way that they're communicating. Now, again, this is not for everyone, but I'm talking about the general air. Mercury in Aries is going to move through all of our personal charts in different ways. You know, and depending on how your own Mercury is placed in your chart is always how you are going to respond to Mercury transits. If you are generally already like an even-keeled, even-tempered person who has a really healthy communication style, you're not suddenly going to just become an asshole because Mercury is in Aries. But yeah, you might find yourself being a little bit more irked by people than you normally are. You might find yourself being a little bit more snappy or edgy than you might normally be. Or it could not even affect you, and it could be that you are just witnessing this kind of Mercury and Aries combative communication style as you're out and about in your day. Or there could be, you know, family members or coworkers or, you know, neighbors going through these types of situations. That's kind of the difference in how transits can affect different people depending on how it's interacting with your own personal astrology. And so Mercury in Aries in general, can be combative, can be argumentative, can be very impulsive with their words, like speak without thinking first. And so it can be a bridge burning Mercury sometimes because Aries is fire, it burns, and so it can burn with words, you know, and so, you know, it can destroy sometimes, you know. So, you know, we want to be careful. We want to try and think before we speak when Mercury is in Aries. And you know, I mean, the thing is that Mercury in Aries is also a very courageous speaker. And so sometimes, you know, whereas there's an element of not thinking before you speak that can be dangerous or hurtful to others, the good side of Mercury in Aries is someone who is brave enough to say what needs to be said when others aren't saying it. And sometimes that can be controversial. Sometimes that can put you in harm's way, you know, sometimes, you know, and so that's tough. Mercury in Aries, you know, it's not easy. And yet it's kind of very brave and heroic. And so Mercury in Aries can also be very brave, very heroic communication. Yeah, you know, you know, those are different sides of the coin. And as always, when I do these videos, it by no means am I giving the comprehensive read right now on all the ways that Mercury in Aries can express itself. It's endless, but I'm giving some examples and so that you can extrapolate from there and take it further and see how in your particular life where this Mercury in Aries may be showing up. You know, it's in different houses for all of us, depending on our rising sign. And so, and in this video, I'm trying to stick to March 14th, when Mercury stations retrograde, when I'm going to come back and do another video just about the retrograde period. But, you know, I wanted to make sure that I mention here that what happens in our communications from March 3rd through March 14th, we will be revisiting a lot of or important moments of aspects of, again, between April 15th to 26th. And so that's why, knowing the astrology, we have an opportunity to have a lot of awareness around who we're talking to, what negotiations we're making, what scheduling we're doing, what plans we're making, you know, what promises are being made, what agreements are being made, you know, who are we talking to, what is being said, because there are important elements of this that will be coming back around, probably for, you know, a resolution, for better or for worse, between April 15th and April 26th. And I'll be back with more videos breaking this down into sections, because I know astrology is a lot to take in. And even if you don't understand all the terminology I'm using, you can mark things in your calendar and you can start to track it. And over time, you'll start to speak the language. So, and you can still understand the videos, even if you don't know all the jargon yet. Just wait until for the interpretation parts and just throw out the rest. Or listen for the rest, because it'll be a learning experience where eventually you too will speak and understand the language of astrology. So, yeah, those were kind of some general things I wanted to say just about Mercury in Aries. And that's kind of like anytime Mercury's in Aries. But Mercury in Aries in 2025 is distinct because of how everything else is arranged in the sky at this point. And as Mercury enters Aries 2025, that 0 degrees Aries point, man, is that an important point. 0 degrees Aries is a world point, so it has to do with world news, okay? And it's in Aries, so it can be world news around wars, around controversial topics, but also around, you know, pioneers and trailblazers. That's one of the, you know, the great attributes of Aries. It can be world news around CEOs. Aries is also that. You know, bosses, you know, around warriors, around the military, around, you know, athletes, police, you know, risk takers, daredevils. All of this is under the purview of Aries. And this Mercury at 0 degrees at this time in history is very, very important, because we know that Neptune, one of the outer planets who takes 165 years to get around the zodiac, is about to be at the 0 degrees Aries point at the same time as Saturn, who takes, you know, 28 years to go around the sun, will be at 0 degrees Aries. So 0 degrees Aries is very important for the world right now. And it's very important for us in our personal lives. Wherever that point is in our chart is important for several different reasons, all of which I won't go into now, but definitely something that I would talk to you about in a one-on-one astrology reading. everyone should know where 0 degrees Aries is in their chart, because 0 degrees Aries is the start of the entire zodiac. And I think it's draconian astrology where they set that to your chart to that and read it from that angle, which I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but very, very interesting. And that is where our story, our astrological story begins. 0 degrees Aries. You know, that is the very beginning. That is the spring equinox. That is the awakening. That is the beginning of life. So, yeah. This 0 degrees Aries point that Mercury is at March 3rd and will be again at on April 15th is a really important point. So I would make a note of what's going on for you on both March 3rd, you know, at, in Los Angeles at 4:04 a.m. in DC in DC at 4:04 a.m. in Los Angeles at 1:04 a.m. Anyway, the exact time doesn't matter, but March 3rd, make a note of what was going on for you. What were you doing? Who were you talking about? What scheduling are you doing? What travel plans are you making? What conversations are you having? And then look at April 15th too, because these are important moments about, in the short term, but also in a longer term. And so it's interesting. It's special. There's messages there if you pay attention to March 3rd and April 15th and how they relate to each other. In terms of communications, again, so this is text, emails, contracts, conversations, letters, scheduling, all of these things are where we're talking about Mercury. And it's also very important because Venus retrograde is also going over this spot, and Venus retrograde I did a video about, which I posted yesterday. I posted March, oh my gosh, I'm a little bit behind. So as I'm recording this video right now, it is March 5th, but I'm talking about Mercury entering Aries March 3rd, and I'm focusing mainly on the first leg of the trip, March 3rd to March 14th, where Mercury stations to go retrograde, and I will be back to do another video. But I'm just trying to be clear about, a few things here. I think I lost my train of thought. So now I'm going to get into the aspects of this Mercury in Aries. And just a couple of aspects that will take us to the retrograde point. And one of those aspects is Mercury in Aries sextile Pluto in Aquarius. And Pluto is god of the underworld. The sextile is of the nature of Venus. So this is a harmonizing aspect. This aspect creates opportunities. When we're dealing with Aries, we're dealing with, on the one hand, we're dealing with new ideas. And so what I love about Mercury in Aries sextile Pluto in Aquarius, there's a lot of mental power here, with the sextile, because Pluto deals in power. Pluto is very empowering. This is very empowering to the mind. And, Aries is about new ideas and new starts. And Aquarius is about the higher mind. And so when they're working together in this harmonious way, there is an opportunity to come up with innovative ideas, with like, you know, transformative new ideas. And, you know, if you're operating on that plane, that opportunity is there. You know, sextiles aren't like trines. They don't just land in your lap no matter what. The opportunity is there, but you have to recognize the blessing to receive it. That's one of the reasons that I love astrology, is because, you know, having that awareness. I think sometimes people take their blessings and opportunities for granted. They don't recognize them when they're right around them. They do later sometimes, and sometimes people are just completely oblivious and they don't even recognize that they ever had the opportunity. But like, yeah, you know, the sextile shows us that there's an opportunity there, you know, for innovative new ideas that can transform, you know, your community, or, you know, transform, you know, your neighborhood, or your whatever. It depends on where it is in your chart. And for, you know, people operating on the level of leadership, it could transform the world, you know. Anyway, we're all operating different kinds of collectives at any given time. So that Pluto and yeah, that Mercury sextile Pluto, and that was just like off the top of my head, one way, you know, that I could see it manifesting. You know, Pluto is underworld figures, Pluto is transformation, Pluto is power, Pluto is plutocrats and billionaires. You know, Pluto in Aquarius is like, you know, tech plutocrats. And so maybe there are some great innovations also coming for the collective from that end. You know, so all of that is kind of reflected March 5th. And that's the day that I'm actually recording this video, even though Mercury did enter Aries March 3rd. And this sextile is at 3 degrees Pluto, so 3 degrees Aquarius. So Pluto is now, you know, 3 degrees in to Aquarius, where he entered November 14th, starting this new 20-year era. So this Mercury transit is quick, and that's what I like about Mercury-Pluto transits. This is, you know, like, yes, if you really want to zoom out and be like super wise and lofty, yes, this little transit is a piece in the puzzle of the 20 years, but we don't even have to get that heady with it. Like, we can just deal with today. Mercury is zipping past Pluto. And so this is just like a little boost of energy. This is like a little, it's a potential little boost of power if you recognize where it is and you take that opportunity. You know, that's what I'm going to say. And then March 11th, Mercury conjoins Venus retrograde at 8 degrees Aries. And that is fiery communications in love and romantic situations, you know, in creative collaborations. And that is, yeah, you know, it can also be very artistic and creative and inspired communication, because Mercury and Venus is very much, can be like writers or people who have a way of words, but it's fiery, it's passionate, it can be argumentative because it's in Aries, and Venus is retrograde as they come together, and Mercury is slowing down, about to go retrograde and go over this same territory. So it seems like there's this very like passionate communication in romantic relationships, in love, but also possibly in terms of creative collaborations. It could be artists who are expressing themselves in very controversial ways publicly. It could be, you know, women artists expressing themselves in stylistically controversial ways. There's so many different ways that this can express, but I just give you like a couple of little examples so that you can kind of extrapolate from there how it might be showing up in your life and how it might show up in the headlines. And so those are the big aspects I want to talk about, you know, that Pluto sextile Mercury on March 5th, and then on March 11th, there's that conjunction with Mercury and Venus in Aries. Those are two of the big aspects Mercury has coming up. And now I'm going to briefly, because I'm already at 25 minutes, I'm going to talk about Los Angeles chart and the US chart very briefly. I'll start with the US chart. In the US chart, Mercury in Aries is in the 4th house. And at the time that Mercury enters Aries, the moon is at 29 degrees Aries. And this symbolizes to me that, you know, Mercury has news. There's news for the country around homeland security, around the possibility of war, like on American soil. By the time Mercury gets to 29 degrees Aries, where the moon is when Mercury enters Aries, this could happen. And that's, we're talking April, you know, I think like April 26th or something like that. So there are definitely like homeland security issues being talked about in the media, but also behind closed doors as Mercury is moving through Aries. And then with Pisces, in DC's chart, Pisces is, so this is a Capricorn. Capricorn is the ruler of the chart, but Mercury is who we're looking at. But Capricorn is Saturn in Pisces in the 3rd house, the community, the neighborhood, women. These are big topics in the news. The ocean, you know, water, bodies of water, you know, and deception, smoke and mirrors, addictions, suicides. All of these things are really big news while Mercury is moving through Aries this time. The planetary messenger. Mercury is the journalist. Mercury is the writer. Mercury is the reporter. Mercury is the news anchor. You know, Mercury can sometimes be children too. And anyway, there do seem to be some disruptions around children going on in the country in this cycle. And Mars is in Cancer in the 7th house, which is showing, again, a threat to homeland security from open enemies. It's showing a threat to alliances going on. And this is all, Mercury is testifying this. So Mercury is writing about this. Mercury is talking about this, you know. Mercury is sending us messages about this. This is the country, you know, and the populace is at 29 degrees Aries. So there's, people are angry, things are boiling, they're coming to a boiling point. And that's a lot about the Aries-Pisces relationship too. I feel like there is this sense of things coming to a boiling point, but there's also a sense of things coming full circle, for better or for worse, you know. There's beautiful full circle moments and there's painful full circle moments, you know. And again, you know, your personal astrology is your personal astrology. I'm talking about what's going on for the country in this section of the video. A little bit, I'm touching on it, you know. And then you've got, for the country, Pluto conjunct Pallas Athene in the 2nd house of money and resources, and in Aquarius. And so there's strategy going on about transforming the financial system to digital currency and crypto, and possibly even something that's better for the collective, like universal basic income or things like that. They're zooming out and strategizing about completely transforming the financial system of the country. And you know, there's some bad news, it looks like, in this cycle coming around health. While Mercury is in Aries, it looks like bad news about health because Jupiter is in the 6th house. Jupiter in Gemini is in the 6th house. So it's like there's bad news and there's good news. The bad news is maybe the health situation. The good news, maybe there's a cure. I mean, Jupiter is there in Gemini, so it's a double-edged sword. And there might also become, you know, conflicting information, but it looks like it's all going to work out. But there are some health issues that are being announced. I mean, I guess it's all going to work out for now. I've been seeing a lot about health, and yeah, okay, so there are health issues definitely going on in communities of the country. It looks like it's growing in this period of Mercury being in Aries. This is being talked about and written about and discussed and studied. You know, that's what Mercury is doing. Mercury is the planet of communication, so Mercury is writing, Mercury is speaking, Mercury is studying, Mercury is teaching. And so that's all going on in the US chart. And there's more that I could say about the US chart, but I realize I'm at 31 minutes now. And so I'm going to touch on the LA chart. I'm going to pull a tarot card and I'm going to get us out of here because I had no intention of this video being so long. I was going to talk more about even the aspects of the LA and DC chart, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, well, I did. Mercury, okay. The Mercury-Pluto aspect in the DC chart is innovative ideas around the finances of this country, and through technology, and, you know, probably coming from these like tech billionaires or plutocrats, something like that. That's briefly that, just a quick overview. And then the Venus Mercury is something to do with, I don't know, it can have to do with women in the military, it can have to do with women athletes or women artists speaking out in controversial ways, or, you know, things like that going on. Violence against women from the police, I hope not, but that is something that we could see with that. So being something that's on the, you know, kind of world stage news of America, possible. There's many different ways it can present. I'm just, you know, looking at the charts, saying what's off the top of my head, as I'm also trying to wrap this video up that I did not intend for it to be this long, but this is what happens when you try out a new style. And I guess there's a lot more to say when I'm looking at a chart because it's more like a regular reading instead of me just trying to remember everything and get through it. But I don't know what's better. Tell me in comments what you think is better. So when I look at Los Angeles's chart of Mercury entering Aries, Sagittarius is rising. So Jupiter is the chart ruler. Jupiter is in a much better position in LA's chart. It looks like good news regarding, you know, relationships, good news regarding alliances with the city, and some good news regarding education, you know, and this is like expansion of partnership, expansion around education. These kinds of things are in LA's Mercury into Aries chart. There's stuff around children, but yeah, that Jupiter in Gemini very much does have a feeling for me of there's good news and there's bad news, because all that Jupiter is square the sun in this chart. And so, you know, I'm concerned when I look at LA's chart. It looks like there could be a violent situation taking place at a school. And I hate to say that, I don't want to say that, but it looks like that in the chart is possible during this Mercury in Aries news cycle for the city. I see Mercury writing about this, talking about this. You know, teachers, students, maybe it's not violence, maybe it's protests. Maybe it's protests with violence. You know, but there can be revolutionary action at schools, violence at schools, around, it looks like around children. So yeah, that's something that's concerning in the LA chart. And then Jupiter also is ruling the 4th house. It's so Mercury, who we're looking at in Aries, is still, you know, in the LA chart, also ruled by Mars in Cancer, but this time Mars in Cancer is in the 8th house, which is the house of death. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned about something happening around children in this cycle in Los Angeles, maybe at schools, maybe otherwise. And then the Jupiter also rules the 4th house, where the Pisces pileup is happening. So there's a ton going on about homelessness. You know, there's a lot of philanthropy and empathy and compassion, but then there's also, it looks like the homeless situation is ballooning. And so there's a lot of talk and writing and conversations about this, but there also looks to be like expansion. There's stuff about water in Los Angeles, a lot about water. The waterfront property is a big conversation, a controversial conversation in Los Angeles during this period of Mercury and Aries, something that people may be fighting about, arguing about. So that's all in the LA chart. And Aries, Aquarius. Yeah, so there could be some neighborhood leaders that are going to come in handy during whatever's going on with Mercury and Aries and the children. Or it could be nightlife too. Anyway, I'm reading this chart as I go along. I can't believe how long this video's been, but hey, trying new things. You got to try new things sometimes and see how they work out. You know, it's the only way you learn. It's the only way you learn. And yeah, so that looks like, and then when Mercury and Venus conjoin in Aries, that's the 5th house, the house of children, the house of recreation and events, nightlife, all of those things. Looks like big topics in the media, in the news, in the collective conversation of Los Angeles during Mercury in Aries. And I'm looking really at, you know, March 3rd through 29th, but again, March 15th through April 15th through 26th. So you see, this is a tricky Mercury. So there's a lot of tricky communications going on right now too, you know, because as above, so below. And it could get emotional later down the road, because as Mercury moves back into Pisces, you know, that 0 degrees Aries to 29 degrees Pisces moment, you know, there's some potential for hurt feelings, you know, from words that are said. So yeah, happy Mercury in Aries. I really got down and dirty with this Mercury in Aries. I don't always go so far with just a simple Mercury transit, but I think that there's something about the format that I'm doing now of putting the charts in front of me while I do the reading instead of like bullet points. It's a little different. It's a little bit more organic. It seems kind of like, duh, why didn't you do that in the first place? I know, but I didn't. I guess it's just because of the way that I set up. I'm growing. I'm a growing content. I'm a developing content creator. And I'm going to leave you with a tarot card. And I do also want to say, if you would like to thank me for this reading by buying me a coffee or a tea or a croissant, I will put my Venmo in the description and the notes below. If you would like to book a reading, a link to book a reading is also in the description in the notes below. I would love to read for you. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. Astrology works best when you work one-on-one with an astrologer, and you continue over time, I think, to work with an astrologer or astrologers to get deeper and deeper into the understanding of your chart. It's so fascinating, and I just love it. I would love to share it with you. So definitely email me or go to my website, elianenicole.com, and book a reading. And here is the tarot card. Ooh, the Four of Pentacles. This is about, you know, investments, saving money, creating financial foundations, creating financial security. Sometimes it has to do with, you know, playing it safe, being very conservative, you know, not wanting to take as many risks. You know, fours are about structure and boundaries. The pentacles are about our money and our stuff. And so I think that this is an interesting card to come up just in the context of like there being so much in Pisces right now. There's so many lessons going on around boundaries for us, you know, in a very literal sense, like boundaries of water. You know, you see what's going on with like the Gulf of America, but also there's a lot of stuff about the ocean and going on, and just, you know, rain and floods and different bodies of water in many forms, but also our emotional landscape. And with all of this Pisces energy going on, there's a lot of lessons for us about, you know, how to contain our emotions. And the Four and the Earth are containers, you know, and so we're learning so much about emotional maturity, and how to invest in ourselves, emotional boundaries, you know, so more like, you know, figurative kind of like, you know, investment, but also literally investing money in, you know, and real estate and wealth and stocks and the future and where the world is going now. And so there's a lot here. You know, I could go on and on and on about this coming up at this time, but in general, you know, this is very earthy, and a lot of what's going on through Mercury traveling through Aries is a lot about fire and water. And so I guess the tarot is reminding us to stay grounded during this time, you know, do the things that ground us as this kind of fiery whirlpool is happening through March and April. You know, there's a fiery whirlpool that's taking form, and the tarot is reminding us to ground, you know, and to have boundaries for ourselves and to create safe containers for our emotions and for our creativity and all of these things, so many things. But I hope that I touched on enough to give you an idea to take it further. And yes, if you would like to get a tarot reading or a birth chart reading, please contact me. I would love to read for you. Thank you so much for joining me. For those of you who stuck around to 43:38, boy, like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Drop a comment if you stuck around to the end. Wow, I really appreciate you. You like deserve like a 20% discount on your next reading. Yeah, you stuck around to the end. I said it, I'll honor it. Okay, thank you for joining me. Bye now.